Headshot, another great Iko Uwais film. Absolutely brilliant. The choreography in this is really, really good. Now, what I liked about this was there was a bit of mystery at the beginning. The film opens with this guy, Lee, in a jail cell and escaping a jail cell. And then there's a shootout with the cops, between the cops and the inmates who escape. Now, after that, it switches to Iko Uwais, aka Ishmael, in the hospital. And he's woken up. You don't know who this man is. He's got a head trauma, and he's got some sort of head trauma. And there's a nurse who's looking after him, watching over him. He's in a coma, and eventually he wakes up. It's kind of like similar to like the Bourne films, where we've got this guy. He's got amnesia, and we don't know who he is. But at the same time, he doesn't know who he is, so we're trying to work it out as the film goes on. So it's a really good kind of structure for a good action movie anyway. What I found was I was trying to work out who he was in that moment. So I was thinking, was he one of the inmates who helped Lee escape and got caught in that crossfire in the gun battle with the prison guards? Well, actually, that's what I thought at first. But then those bits of flashes that you see, flashbacks that he has, kind of reveals little bits of his story. So you see the moment where he gets shot, you know, a little flashback. We see Estelle's character in this, you know, aka Hammer Girl from the Raid 2, and of course from The Night Comes For Us. So she's like really, really smashing it at the moment. You know, she's got some great fight scenes in this as well. Particularly did like a fight scene with Iko on the beach. That was pretty good. That was pretty intense. And it obviously alludes to a relationship that they had in the past. In terms of just the story, it's a good story based for an action film. Maybe the film was a little bit too long. I think it was more of a 90-minute film. It was it's about 2 hours long, but I think it's more of a 90-minute film. But again, I enjoyed Iko's acting again. I'm impressed by this guy's acting. Like, he's getting better and better. It's a lot of those little nuances in what he doesn't say. You know, some of the stuff where there's not necessarily dialogue. It's just like there's certain looks that he has that on his face that really tell a whole story. For example, in the film, there's little moments where he's having these kind of flashbacks and he's trying to remember who he is. And I just like the intensity on his face as he's doing that, you know, as he's having these relapses. And then he's trying to come back. He comes back to reality. And also the relationship that he has with the doctor, the woman, you can see again, brings out that empathy, that love for her, you know, the fact that he's always there for her, he's always going to be there for her. And he does warn her actually that he might not be a good person. Not only from the flashbacks, there's a feeling inside that something happened in his past that wasn't good, that he wasn't a good person, you know, and he does say that to her. When later in the film, she's obviously in shock because, you know, she was kidnapped and everything else, and they kidnapped the little girl, and she witnessed the executions on the bus as they were looking for him. But then she reacts like, oh, you're one of them. But I felt like that reaction was a bit over the top, because it was like, well, he did say, you know, he doesn't feel like he's necessarily a good guy, but she was just like, didn't want to hear it. Oh, you're a great guy, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, he did allude to a past of something that's not necessarily good. I say that, but it is kind of a natural reaction someone would probably have to being in that situation. I thought the scene on the bus was brutal, really brutal. It was that section where they're following him, they're following Ishmael. They think he gets on the bus, the guys are following him. They think he gets on the bus because their view is blocked by another bus, but he didn't end up getting on the bus. So they follow the bus, and then they stop the bus, and then they're looking for him, asking where he is, and then they end up executing everybody on the bus apart from the doctor and the little girl. And that moment was really chilling, you know. Ishmael comes to rescue them, and the fight scene on the bus was really good because it was in that close quarter space. And even the mindset of these guys, it was kind of interesting that at a moment they started pouring gasoline on him, and they were trying to they had a lighter and they were trying to light him on fire on the bus, even as they were on the bus. So it's not even like they're just trying to kill him by strangling him or shooting him or stabbing him or something like that. They're trying to light him on fire. So it showed the brutality of these assassins, you know. And obviously we find out Lee is this guy who has kidnapped these children and made them into assassins, and Ishmael is one of those. Estelle's character is one of those, and there's a few other characters that we see in the film that are, you know, including his good friend who he fights at the end, who's got the baton. I thought his fight scenes were really good with the baton. That was really good. Reminded me of my Arnis days, you know, using the sticks. Had some good stick work fighting in that. And even going to that fight, one thing I liked about it, again, it was great, it was intense, typical Iko Uwais action that you would expect in these films. There was a headshot that finishes the guy off, which I thought was really realistic, because you don't really see that too much in television and film shows where they show someone getting struck on the head and then in a fight scene, in a martial art fight scene particularly, and then dying from that. So he gets struck on the head and then he walks to the beach and he dies from that. And I thought that was really a really good kind of realistic, if you want to say, depiction of violence and a depiction of what would happen if you did take a headshot with a baton, and a really good headshot with a baton, and it actually finished him off. So I thought that was pretty good fight choreography, good storytelling through action, and good detail, you know, attention to detail. But again, with this guy Lee, what was interesting was in the jail cell at the beginning, we see that he's talking to the guards. I think the picture was that he's on death row, so they were about to execute him or something. So he was like, I want you to remember their faces, and he puts a bunch of photos in the jail, and there's all these photos of all these children. So immediately I was thinking, what, is he a child abuser, or had he kidnapped these children or something like that? So it gave, those little plot points gave little questions to who is this sinister guy. It gave a bit of mystery to the story as it was unfolding. So the story, it was a lot better than some people think it is, you know. I thought it was pretty decent. And yeah, going into the martial arts action, I did really like the fight between Lee and Ishmael at the end. The two different styles, there's different styles of silat. You had Lee using that like tiger style, we're using the kind of tiger claw. Again, that reminded me, I trained martial arts in China. I trained Shaolin Kung Fu in China, and one of the styles that I learned was a tiger fist. So it kind of reminded me of my days training with the tiger fist, and some of the moves he was doing was really good. And then you've got Iko's style, which is a little different. So I like that contrast of styles. Again, you got the more ferocious tiger style with a more elegant silat style that Iko was using. So I like that contrast at the end. And the fight scene was good. Again, the camera angle was interesting because it kind of does a 360 turn around the actors, kind of showing their, you know, their movements, but in a 360 turn. There was a really good shot in that final fight where I believe Lee, he does a sequence of moves and he kicks Ishmael into a wall, and you kind of see the impact of Ishmael's face hitting the wall and then landing. I really felt the hit in that shot. That was a really good piece of cinematography in terms of the shot and in terms of the impact of the fight, of that sequence of that hit, you know. So there's some really good moments in that fight scene. And yeah, really good film. Not as good as The Raid or The Raid 2, obviously that's a very high bar to cross. Not as good as Night Comes For Us, but definitely worth checking out. If you're a fan, I know you're a fan of Iko like I am, you know, so you're gonna wanna check this out. His team did the fight choreography, and I think it's a really good performance, really strong performance from Iko, not just in the fighting, but in his acting as well. You got Julie Estelle's in this again, Hammer Girl. She was great in it. I still can't believe she's had no martial arts experience prior to, was it The Raid 2? And she's starring in some of the best martial arts action films that are being done at the moment, because I feel like Indonesian martial arts scene is really leading the way. You know, at the moment, in terms of these films, they're really leading the way, and she's in the thick of it right now. Yeah, I'm really enjoying watching her on the screen. Iko, of course, brilliant. This film, definitely worth checking out. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. Definitely worth checking out. It's not as good, like I said, as The Raid or The Raid 2 or The Night Comes For Us. But if you're an Iko fan, like I said, like I am, like I'm sure you are, just check it out if you haven't. Anyway, if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, share, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this movie. Did you think it was a great performance by Iko? What did you think of some of the fight scenes and some of the camera work in the film? I'd love to know your thoughts. Comment down below, let me know, let's have a discussion. And make sure you check out the playlist I have with Iko Uwais and the Indonesian martial arts films. We'll be talking more about those. and I'd love to know some of your thoughts on the other films like Headshot, The Raid 2 is one of my favorites, and let's have a discussion. Anyway, I'll see you next time for another video, and remember, behind every fight is a great story. Peace!